Koppel, host of the Time for Coffee podcast, where you get first-hand career advice into the jobs and industries that interest you the most. And before we start today's show, I have a quick favor to ask you. If you haven't already, I'd be incredibly grateful if you give us a rating and a review on iTunes. And if you're like me, you need to do it now because you'll forget later and because it's the best way to help others who may be in search of career advice to find this free resource. So press pause if you haven't done it and do it right now. I'll wait. Thanks so much and enjoy today's show. Hey there, Java Junkies. Welcome to another K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. By the way, K-Cups come in 3 sizes, single, double, and triple shots, or roughly 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes in length. So if you don't have time to throw back an entire caffeinated career conversation, these K-Cup mini episodes of T4C can give you a quick caffeinated fix, whether you're on the go or you only have a few minutes to binge. So grab your mug and take a chug, because it's time for a caffeinated career double shot K-Cup with my guest, Alden Zecha. Let's talk about Sidecar Angels, where you're a managing director. Is it meant to be a complement to WeScale Impact in that at WeScale Impact, you're able to evaluate those early stage ventures from various industries for potential investment, or is it something completely different?
It's actually something completely different. The two organizations, other than myself, have no overlap. There are no businesses that would be suitable for the one that would also be suitable for the other. Sidecar Angels invests dominantly in the Northeast United States. We're Boston based, and we take a look mainly at the greater New England area for investment. We invest by definition only in for-profit businesses, and it's fairly traditional investment group in terms of what it's looking for in the businesses it invests in. Of course, one would argue there's overlap in that both organizations work with early stage or startup businesses, but the nature of the businesses is completely different. Now, that said, they are very complementary for me in terms of the skills that they allow me to use, and the knowledge that I gain from each definitely helps me when I'm applying it to the other. However, the organizations themselves are completely separate, and again, other than myself, have no overlap at all.
Okay. I think it's super interesting, and I, of course, have the advantage of having looked at your really impressive resume. You've had such a wide-ranging professional life, Alden, zigging and zagging all over the place. Let's flash back to when you were in college. It may be surprising for our young listeners to learn that you majored in chemical engineering at Princeton University, where you made it through in just 3 years, and you went directly into a master's program, also in chemical engineering, also at Princeton. Did you know what you were going to do with those degrees when you graduated?
I thought I knew what I was going to do with those degrees when I graduated.
Okay.
And for the first maybe 12 to 18 years after, my life, as you said, took some zigs and zags and took some twists and turns, mostly positive, by the way, but that led me on a completely different path. Looking back at when I was just out of school, starting my first job, at that time, I would have said I absolutely knew what I wanted to do, absolutely knew what my career path was. I could not have been more mistaken. I think when I got out of college, my vision was that I would have maybe 1 or 2 employers in my entire career, and that I would take at the time, fairly standard trajectory of getting hired in and slowly being promoted up the ladder and so on and so forth. Now I look back 30 plus years on, and I think I've had something around 12 or 14 different employers at this point. So it's a completely different journey. And I think that had someone told me, though, when I was 21, that in my now 50s be where I am, I would have laughed them off and thought they were crazy, to be honest. And I would have said, I absolutely disagree with you. I know exactly where I'm going and what I'm doing. But that, of course, did not come to be the case.
Well, you and me both, Alden. What about extracurricular activities when you were an undergrad? Are there any that in hindsight you might say had an influence on your professional life?
Oh, without question. When I was in college, my only really extracurricular activity was I was part of the rowing team. I had walked on to the rowing team as a freshman, and I'm very small and able to get a position as a coxswain there on the team. And for those of you who don't know, most people think of rowers as large individuals. The coxswain is the person who steers the boat and is somewhat akin to maybe a jockey in a horse race in terms of both role, but also in the stature that they're looking for. So it worked for me physically and that I could do that. And it absolutely changed my life, not just while I was in college. Most of my friends from college or people I met on the team, but that was actually what completely changed my career path. 2 years out of university, I trained for and try out for the U.S. national rowing team. And unfortunately, though, to do it, I had to have come to a tough decision of, do I stay in my job at my career, pursue this potential opportunity, and recognize that I'm basically abandoning a certain career path? And when it came down to it, I decided to leave my employer and pursue rowing, and I did for several years. Unfortunately, never made the U.S. Olympic team. I did get to try out for 2 different Olympic teams, but wasn't selected. And it has been with me ever since as a very positive influence that shaped me, not just in my career choices, of course, but also gave me certain skills, such as teamwork, such as hard work, that I think have benefited me ever since.
Thanks for tuning in to this K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. If you want to listen to our entire caffeinated career conversation, please check out the show notes for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to this latest episode of T4C. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching services for confused college students and recent grads, feel free to check out the Time for Coffee website under the coaching tab at time4coffee.org or text me at 202-236-5712. That's 202-236-5712.